Throughout our conversation, non-nutritive sweeteners came up, and separately, the GLP-1 agonists, including Ozempic. Last question for you as we wrap up here. Let's bring those together and talk about allulose and how somebody might want to use that therapeutically as a sweetener to help increase GLP-1.
I was just talking about this with someone recently because I think it's very easy to fall into a logical trap, which is like, interestingly enough, allulose does promote GLP-1 production. And there are now data showing that it probably has anti-obesogenic effects, at least in preclinical models where you, say, feed mice a Western diet and give them stevia versus allulose. This is out of the Bickman lab. Allulose appears to protect against obesity in these mice, which is very interesting. So one could jump to the conclusion of, we know GLP-1 causes weight loss. We know allulose promotes GLP-1 production. We know allulose can have an anti-obesogenic effect, at least in mice. So therefore, allulose increases GLP-1 to promote weight loss. But that logic is flawed on a few fronts. High level, this could be something that is true, and unrelated, where there are possible metabolic benefits, but they're not mediated via GLP-1, because actually the GLP-1 levels induced by allulose probably, at least again in mouse models, a fourfold increase in portal vein levels, which is nothing to shrug at, still isn't like Ozempic, which is super physiologic levels, right? So, and that stick around for a long time. So I'm not convinced the metabolic benefits of allulose are per se due to GLP-1, although there does appear to be a pretty interesting signal in the literature. And it has a lot of other effects as well, inhibiting enzymes that break down sugars, like break down sucrose, activating hormone-sensitive lipase at fat cells, which interestingly enough is one of the mechanisms of action of Mounjaro, which is tirzepatide, which is more powerful than Ozempic. So there might be like mechanistic overlap there. With respect to allulose, I think the reason I find it interesting is in the universe of non-nutritive sweeteners, including rare sugars and natural sweeteners like stevia and artificial sweeteners, I used to be of just a general negative opinion, and by and large, it's not something I think people need by any extent. And I think that there are certainly some that are harmful, like sucralose and aspartame. But there's such a heterogeneous and interesting group of compounds. And the practical me realizes that we're not getting sweet out of the diet anytime soon. So then the question arises, well, what is the best possible option for people? And the literature keeps on pointing back and back to allulose. I think stevia and monk fruit are benign. Erythritol, there's some questions about. I'm not that concerned about it. I would stay away from sucralose, saccharin, and aspartame. And then allulose is the one that might even be beyond benign, but actually beneficial. The literature on that is, expanding, and I'm just very interested to follow it and contribute to it. Because, I would love to see it displace regular sugar and fructose in the food supply. And I think it would be a pretty awesome natural experiment and a tool for people to use who are struggling with metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, to potentially optimize their lifestyle within the confines of being someone who's always going to want sweet in their life. And there are all those people. So it doesn't spike insulin. It doesn't spike glucose. In fact, it attenuates, lowers glucose and insulin rises when sugar is also consumed. It does produce or stimulate the body to produce GLP-1, very interestingly, and has a lot of other metabolic impacts beyond just displacing fructose that I find fascinating. So, yeah, the company that produces it that I'm affiliated with, I'm on their scientific advisory board, is RX Sugar. So you can check them out. I do have a discount code that the CEO, Steve, would be upset if I didn't share, which is Nick20. I don't get any profits from sales. I'll be very transparent. I don't use a lot of allulose myself. I'm on the scientific advisory board because I find the compound interesting, and I realize it can be a tool for some people. So check it out if you want. I have a whole breakdown video on it. It's one of my more popular ones, called The World's Healthiest Sugar, and I'm looking at this crazy brownie on it. But I do think it's I think it's a very interesting molecule.
And you do have another video titled something like Nature's Ozempic. Is that
Yeah,
still... It sounds
I
like your
regret
thoughts have changed since then a little bit.
I regret that title, to be perfectly honest. I might delete that video. It's one of my most popular older videos. The reason the reason I think I'm fine with the title in general, and I'll use the term, is because what does Ozempic do? It mimics GLP-1. So GLP-1 is effectively, quote, nature's Ozempic. That's a fair analogy to draw. And there's also GLP-1, quote, nature's Ozempic deficits in obesity, metabolic syndrome, PCOS. So I think framing it like that, just because it's a word that's in the zeitgeist of Ozempic, basically using nature's Ozempic as a surrogate for GLP-1, is fair. Where it can be misleading is the suggestion, which I did in the one video, which I it's not something I'm proud of. Again, I might just take that video down. It hasn't caused issues, and it's an older video before I was thinking about this. But I don't want people to be misled to believe that having something that is a foodstuff that promotes GLP-1 production by the body is going to have the effect of Ozempic, where you automatically lose 16% of your body weight. You know what I mean? Because Ozempic is a whole different class of medications. So yeah,
You could always change the title too and put a little
I'm trying
disclaimer
to
at the
phase
top.
out I could. I mean, I'm not above just deleting videos. Apparently, the algorithm, I heard from somebody, really hates when you delete videos.
I've heard that too. I don't know how
But
true it is.
Have you heard that?
I have.
I'm
Again,
very
it's just
new
something I've
learning
heard.
about.
I don't know how true it is.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but it wouldn't prevent me from deleting the video. Generally, I monitor YouTube comments pretty closely. I think I've clarified this in future, so I don't think I'm misleading anyone. If for whatever reason it becomes a problem where I just feel that it was being misrepresented, I've deleted videos before. I'm pretty hardcore about precision and accuracy, so when I have something I don't like, I delete it. Like I had this one video on fructose and metabolic syndrome breaking down a cell metabolism paper, and there was a Cree-Lox system. You know anything about expression models and Cree-Lox, and I listed some string of letters with reference to the intestine versus the liver and mixed them up in the Cree-Lox models. And it went over, I think, 99.99% of heads. It bothered me so much that I messed that up. I deleted the video just entirely. So maybe I'll delete this other one, but for now it stands. Just because, quite honestly, practically, it's in the background growing my channel. I recorded it on my iPhone. It has over 100,000 views. People seem to like it. I think my messaging is pretty clear. I go down and break out. I'm not just on a soapbox. Here's a Nature's Communication paper. Here are the data. Let's talk about them. So, I'm just showing the data. But with all these things, I think it's worth auditing your messaging, thinking about, what you might have screwed up and just being honest with yourself and non-defensive. I'm at the very beginning of this journey as a content creator. Really, I only became serious or more serious about it now in 2024. So I'm very ready to evolve and grow and have people say, yeah, you did a bad job here. And so right now, every video or every month or so, I can go back and be oh, I could have done that better. But that's kind of part of the growing process, right?
And to be fair, there'll be things from this conversation I'm sure both of us will disagree with 10 years down the line. And we're creating it with good intent and sharing how we feel at this moment with science and experience. And yeah, it's definitely gray. And I think that part of being a good scientist is being willing to change your hypothesis and the way you look at things. So you're just continuing to evolve and learn, just like we all are.
Yeah. I love the growth mindset.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch a full episode. I'll see you over there.
Towards the end of college, I started developing GI upset with basically anything I ate. So I ended up becoming quite desperate, and after trying a bunch of medications that didn't end up really working to keep me in remission or help my symptoms, I tried a bunch of different diets because I was desperate.